Hi friends. Welcome to Content Factory. Today I am talking about country of Vietnam. Vietnam is a Southeast Asian country known for its beaches, rivers, Buddhist pagodas and bustling cities. Vietnam borders China to the north, and Laos and Cambodia to the west. It shares maritime borders with Thailand through the Gulf of Thailand, and the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia through the South China Sea. Its capital is Hanoi and its largest city is Ho Chi Minh City, commonly known as Saigon. Vietnam and IV is a country in Southeast Asia, at the eastern edge of mainland Southeast Asia, with an area of 311,699 square kilometers, 120,348 square miles, and population of 96 million, making it the world's 16th most populous country. A developing country with a lower middle-income economy, Vietnam is nonetheless one of the fastest-growing economies of the 21st century. With a GDP predicted to rival developed nations by 2050. Vietnam has high levels of corruption and censorship and a poor human rights record. The country ranks among the lowest in international measurements of civil liberties, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion and ethnic minorities. Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam, is known for its centuries-old architecture and a rich culture with Southeast Asian, Chinese and French influences. At its heart is the chaotic Old Quarter, where the narrow streets are roughly arranged by trade. There are many little temples, including Bac Ma, honoring a legendary horse, plus Dong Xuan Market, selling household goods and street food. Hanoi is second largest city of Vietnam. It covers an area of 3,359.82 square kilometers, 1,297.2 square miles. It consists of 12 urban districts, 1 district-leveled town and 17 rural districts. Located within the Red River Delta, Hanoi is after Saigon the second cultural and political center of Vietnam. Hanoi is described as an amazing city in Vietnam since the millennial metropolis has not only attracted visitors for its dynamic beauty of an economic hub but also the diverse culinary art. An enthralling view to Hon Kim Lake, the icon of Hanoi. In 2023, almost 14.3 million people worked in the agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector in Vietnam, making this sector the largest employer among all industries. By comparison, the manufacturing industry employed approximately 11.2 million people, the second highest number of employed population that year. Vietnam has a relatively low unemployment rate, with most Vietnamese people working in the agricultural and service sectors. Many others are employed in Vietnam's manufacturing industries such as machine building, food processing and the country's famous garment and shoe production industry. Vietnam is easily one of the most affordable countries in the world. Expats in Vietnam can expect to earn a staggering salary, averaging US $78,000/pound 55,000, especially if they are employed in a high-growth industry or multinational company. Furthermore, the cost of living in Vietnam is very low. A foreigner may work in Vietnam without a work permit, but they need to apply for a work permit exemption certificate. This certificate is equivalent to a work permit, valid for up to 2 years, and also serves as a basis to apply for a temporary residence card. This is considered the lowest value banknote of Vietnam. The note is painted pink with the image of Haiphong Port, an important trading post in the north of Vietnam that connects Vietnam with other nations in the region and in the world. Vietnam has become increasingly popular as an expat destination in recent years, and it is now recognized as a safe place for foreigners to live and work. Expats are attracted by the nice weather, low cost of living, lively culture and the steady improvements in Vietnam's infrastructure. Vietnam's greatest economic resource is its literate and energetic population. Its long coastline provides excellent harbors, access to marine resources, and many attractive beaches and areas of scenic beauty that are well suited to the development of tourism. Since the late 1990s, the country's economy has been on a vigorous upswing. Tourism has expanded, manufacturing and export earnings have increased, and the per capita gross domestic product, GDP, has grown rapidly. Early in the 21st century, state markets were open to foreign competition, and Vietnam became a member of the World Trade Organization, WTO. This surge followed 2 decades of post-reunification economic instability, during which a slowly developing infrastructure, excessive population growth, environmental degradation, and a rising domestic demand impeded economic development. Vietnam's population experienced rapid growth in the decade following reunification in 1975. Throughout the 1980s, roughly 2/5 of the population was under age 15. Toward the end of the decade, however, birth rates began to decline, dropping from well above to notably below the world average over the next 20 years. Life expectancy simultaneously increased by nearly 15 years over that period. Consequently, the median age of Vietnam's population has been rising steadily. Diverse cultural traditions, geographies, and historical events have created distinct regions within the country. The lowlands generally have been occupied by ethnic Vietnamese, while the highlands have been home to numerous smaller ethnic groups that differ culturally and linguistically from the Vietnamese. The highland peoples can be divided into the northern ethnic groups, who have affinities with peoples in southern China who speak Thai languages, and the southern highland populations, who have ties with peoples in Cambodia, who speak Mon Khmer languages, Austroasiatic family, and peoples in Indonesia and elsewhere in Southeast Asia, who speak Austronesian languages. A north-south variation has also emerged among the ethnic Vietnamese as they have expanded southward from the Red River Delta along the coastal plain and into the Mekong Delta. The Vietnamese have long made a distinction between the northern region, with Hanoi as its cultural center, the central region, where the Nguyen dynasty established a capital at Hue, and the southern region, with Saigon as its urban center. After the mid-19th century, Vietnam was similarly divided by the French into Tonkin in the north, Annam in the center, and Cochinchina in the south. Vietnam has one of the most complex ethno-linguistic patterns in Asia. The Vietnamese majority was significantly Sinicized during a millennium of Chinese rule, which ended in 939 CE. Indian influence is most evident among the Cham and Khmer minorities. The Cham formed the majority population in the Indianized kingdom of Compa in what is now central Vietnam from the 2nd to the late 15th century CE. Small numbers of Cham remain in the south-central coastal plain and in the Mekong Delta near the Cambodian border. The Khmer, Cambodians, are scattered throughout the Mekong Delta. Vietnamese is the official language of Vietnam. Although one of the Mon Khmer languages of the Austroasiatic family, Vietnamese exhibits strong influences from Chinese. The language of the Khmer minority also belongs to the Mon Khmer group, whereas Cham belongs to the Austronesian family. Confucianism, Taoism, and Mahayana Buddhism entered Vietnam over many centuries. Gradually they became intertwined, simplified, and Vietnamized to constitute, along with vestiges of earlier local beliefs, an indigenous religion that came to be shared to some considerable extent by all Vietnamese, regardless of region or social class. It is largely this religious amalgam that is practiced by the roughly half of the population that identifies itself as being Buddhist. The religion of Chao Dai, a synthesis of Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, and Roman Catholicism, appeared during the 1920s, and in the 1930s the Hoa Hao Neo-Buddhist sect spread through parts of the Mekong Delta. Chao Dai has about half as many adherents as Hoa Hao, but both congregations are growing. Together, the two new religionist movements have embraced a significant minority of the population. Local religions involving numerous spirits predominate in many upland communities, and most Cham are Adherents of Islam. The People's Armed Forces include the People's Army of Vietnam, various paramilitary regional and provincial forces, the militia, and the reserves. The People's Army encompasses not only the Army, but also the People's Navy Command, Infantry and Coast Guard, the Air and Defense Force, and the Border Defense Command. The Army is by far the most substantial segment of Vietnam's military, followed by the Air Force and the Navy. With separate commands in Hanoi, Haiphong, and Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam's military is certainly among the largest and most powerful in Southeast Asia. 2 years of active duty are compulsory for men, women's service is voluntary. Both men and women must be at least 18 years old to serve. Paramilitary units include People's Public Security Forces and Self-Defense Forces. The Vietnamese military carries considerable prestige and political influence within the country. It is second in power only to the Communist Party and to the government. Many senior military officers have held positions of authority within the Politburo and Central Committee, important policy-making arms of the Communist Party. The Vietnamese, with their Confucian traditions, have always placed great importance on education. Rural education in the South was badly disrupted during the war years, and all religious and private schools were nationalized after 1975. The government subsequently pursued a policy of educational reform. 9 years of schooling are mandatory and are divided into 5 years of primary and 4 years of lower secondary school. Continuing students are enrolled either in an academic or a vocational upper secondary program, which lasts 3 years. A major restructuring of higher education occurred in the mid-1990s. During that time, the University of Hanoi, founded by the French in 1906 and refounded in 1956, was combined with other institutions and faculties to become Vietnam National University, the largest multidisciplinary institution of higher learning in the country, with campuses in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Other new universities were established in the 1990s, and the number of faculty members grew substantially. Although such changes have significantly increased opportunities for advanced education in Vietnam, expansion of the network has not been in proportion to the increase in the number of students. Subscribe this channel to get more informative video.